Coming up on Theater Talk.
A friend of mine is doing a workshop right now that's costing $300,000 for a workshop.
Wow.
With a set and costumes and
Is it any
wigs
good?
and
Is
why,
it
like
any-
just put on the freaking show.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation. From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm producer Susan Haskins.
And I'm Michael RIEDEL of the New York Post.
So, Michael, it is the 51st anniversary of the movie of West Side Story.
Which also happens to have been one of the greatest musicals ever written, choreographed, directed. Brilliant, brilliant classic American musical, a great movie, still holds up, and I'm delighted tonight to be joined by people who were there from the very beginning. We have with us the guys who were in the movie back then. I want to welcome Eddie Verso, Harvey Evans, David Bean, and Bert Michaels, who has put together a new book, Our Story, Jets and Sharks Then and Now. It's the inside story of the making of the movie of West Side Story, as told by cast members from the movie. Gentlemen, welcome and congratulations on the book, Bert.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, I got to ask you first, Jerome Robbins, I would argue the greatest director-choreographer of the 20th century. One hears, though, he was an absolute terror to work with. True?
Absolutely, to other people, not to me. Never.
Never, no.
Never. I first did Peter Pan with Jerry in 1954. I was 14 years old. Right from the onset, I was the first one picked. Everybody in the audition did everything I did. Jerry was absolutely elated, and from then on, for the next 10 years, he never said a bad word to me. And it was wonderful working for him. It was tough, but I was brought up, you know, my father was kind of strict. He said, David, yes, sir. If he said Dave, I'd say, yeah, Dad. You know, Jerry was the same way. And if you worked hard for him, he absolutely adored you. If you show signs of slacking off a bit, he'd kill you.
Eddie, your experience with Jerome Robbins?
Well, I worked with Jerry from West Side Story until, I don't know, I did ballet theater, Joffrey Ballet. So I left his employ, I would say. Actually, I'm still working for the Robbins Foundation, Robbins Rights Foundation. I set some of his ballets on other companies around the world. And I've never had a problem with Jerry, but then again, I was one of the golden people that whatever I did was right.
Ta-da,
right.
All right, I got to get some real stuff.
wait.
I'm turning the biggest gossip in town, Harvey Evans.
You're not going to get it. No, and I swear to God, I'm like with Cheetah. He made us better. And also, I think from the older crowd, we were used to dictators. We grew up with dictators. Fosse was a dictator. Gower was a dictator, certainly. So I was used to that. Younger people aren't. And that's where you hear more bad stories about Jerry from his later years, like the
Jerome Robbins Broadway. I mean,
yeah,
heard,
that was bad.
They lived in terror.
Yeah, and there are some terrible stories. I witnessed none of that. I mean, I can't. The movie was fine.
Your sense?
I didn't work for Jerry until the movie.
Right.
And I went to the audition and from an all-night party, and I wasn't. So I went in bombed, and 5 hours later I came out and said, "What did I do to myself?" I don't know, but I would do the knee spins and all that stuff, which I had nailed in. And I didn't have knee pads. And at one point, Tommy Abbott came over and said, "Jerry said you don't have to do the knee spins because you don't." I said, "I'll do the knee spins if that's what's set." And I think that's what got me.
That's what got you in.
I think so, because he only said one thing to me that was like, what? You know, when I was up singing a thing, and he said, "Don't be Al Jolson." I was
We never knew that. That's funny.
When we were
Don't
up
be
at
Al
the-
Jolson.
you know,
What were you doing?
Yeah, I was up there with the.
on his knee.
You didn't pay any attention to him, obviously.
No, I'm very good at not paying attention.
Right. It's fascinating the people who came together to create this musical. Jerome Robbins, Steve Sondheim, Arthur Lawrence, Leonard Bernstein. Who was the center of power there?
Jerry.
Jerry.
No
Jerry
question.
was running everybody.
Everything.
Definitely.
Nobody did anything without Jerry.
Right.
Jerry was the
And
final.
Arthur, because you know Arthur Lawrence, who I thought was a friend of mine, but Zing being a new book of his that just came out. I always got the sense
you
that
get it? Oh.
Yeah, I did get it. But that Arthur was, this driving force, and Arthur always claimed that, West Side Story was his idea, but Arthur did what Jerry told him to do.
Absolutely. Everybody did. The only person that I ever saw, I don't know if you guys know, that Danny Pfapp, the cinema photographer. Jerry, I saw Jerry a couple of times and Bob Wise discussing where they wanted this shot, where they wanted that shot, where they wanted this over there. And I was standing over there by Danny Pfapp, and I looked at Danny and I said, "What do you think?" He said, "There," and that's where it was. I mean,
He was the cinematographer.
The cinematographer,
So Jerry was so smart that he was deferring to someone who knew a little bit more about movie making than he may have known.
Yes, but Jerry was adamant about trying things.
boy,
I remember there was
absolutely.
a thing about in Cool, go crazy, cut, go crazy, and Jerry wanted go and don't stop the camera and blur it, and then crazy here, and then don't stop the camera and blur it. And Robert Wise said that is not possible to do. And Jerry said, I want to try it. And I know that we did try it. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
But yeah.
Now, where did you guys film? You filmed a movie on the streets of New York. Did some
Part
Lincoln
of
Center.
them, yeah.
by
beginning,
Lincoln?
the beginning,
Where Lincoln Center's there today, but we forget back then it was really.
facade of buildings.
Yeah,
Right,
brownstones. They left the fronts. They had demolished.
They were tearing it down.
They were tearing
so,
it down at the
there were
time.
nobody living on those streets.
Right.
And we had, when you see in the movie, being chased into a building, there was nothing on the other side.
So wait, so
It's all destruction.
it was New York City though, like a backlot in a Hollywood.
You
studio.
got it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Just
And we,
hit it
and we
perfect
weren't allowed
timing.
to play in the back lot. Because we had a lot of time to play. We did a lot of rain
playing.
dances.
Yes,
That
we
was
did
it.
rain dances, and he wouldn't let us after a while because it started to rain.
So, rain, so
3-4 days in a row at $50,000 a day.
We wanted to stay in New York, so we would do rain dances.
No.
And actually,
try-
they-
all right,
yeah, so it would rain.
Tried to get rain to come.
And it
so
did.
It did.
And it
It
did. So
It
we
did
were
twice.
forbidden to do rain dances.
We were
honest
locked
to
on
God.
the bus. They'd put us on the bus and wouldn't let us out.
And you guys you'd have to leave New York to go to Hollywood to finish filming or something like that, or how?
At the very beginning, we did about 6 to 8 weeks of filming in Los Angeles. Then we all flew to New York, and we had 6 weeks that we were going to do the prologue in New York. And we were going to be at the 5961st Street, I think it was, where the Lincoln Center is. And then we were going to move up to 110th Street on the east side where the playground was.
Right.
Well, we were here 16 weeks.
Something like that.
I mean, it was
Yeah, it's a
they
long
were
time.
getting a little impatient because it was
Was it a fun set? I mean,
Oh,
was it
yeah.
a
We
sense
always
that-
had fun on the set. This was never work. This movie was never work.
Never. The interesting thing was Eddie in London, in the London company, was Baby John, a jet.
Right.
George Chakiris was a jet.
Yes, well, he was Riff, right?
He was Riff.
Riff, yeah.
Right. When we all arrived in New York, well, Eddie and I spent 6 weeks in Europe, touring around after we left the company in London. He got a call to come back to do a screen test. I didn't get a call at that time, so I stayed in London for a few weeks. We all arrive eventually in Hollywood. I'm not allowed to talk to him because he became a shark.
Oh, that was a Robin's way of.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that was true.
The Jets and the Sharks,
yeah.
as actors, could not speak to each
That's
other.
what they worked toward.
It never happened.
You know, like 5 jets would see a shark on lunchtime, and we'd de-pants them or something like that. You know, and we actually were pretty rowdy on the set. I think
yes.
it was a studio where William Wilder or Billy Wilder, they shot their movies. And there was one day when we stole this big thing and was rolling it down the alleys of the thing.
Klieg-lights.
Spartacus.
Yeah.
We were
Who
doing
was that
Spartacus.
that came out and
I
complained?
don't know,
One
but
of
they
those
said,
women.
unless you quiet these kids down, I'm taking my movies off this lot. So we got really reprimanded for that one
We
day.
would take that down and
We were
I'm
encouraged,
Spartacus.
but we were encouraged to do it
It
too.
really didn't stop us, though.
No,
It really didn't stop us.
Sounds like not chorus boys, but a bunch of frat boys out
Oh,
there
yeah.
in Hollywood.
yeah, they didn't know how to handle us.
they wanted that. They knew that would
Yes.
be
That was the-
quality.
that was
in
the-
them. Yeah.
Now, Harvey, you were, if I'm not mistaken, were you in the original West Side Story?
No, I was the first jet replacement.
First jet replay. Any
Yeah.
one of you in the original? No.
Not in the original.
Can you just though? But you would have seen the show, right?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
God, yes.
Can you just take us back and what, as a young dancer, performer, the impact of West Side Story was when you first saw it, Eddie? Do you remember thinking there's just something new happening in the musical theater?
I had to do that show. I had to do that show. It was so lifelike that I had to be on that stage doing that show.
You're going to get the same answer from 4 of them.
Bert, what did you think when you first saw it?
Well, I saw the Gypsy run through before they went out of town. I was friends with a guy who had a rehearsal studio on 44th Street, and says, here. So I went down to see it, and I'm sitting there, and Jerry comes out, and Jerry says, you know, their whole orchestra was Betty Wahlberg over there, and there's no costumes, there's no scenery, there's no lights, there's just us. And when he's over there talking to her, it's really just a fire escape, and it's the balcony scene, and just have a good time, and left. So I said, oh, all right. And after the first number and the first set, the entire audience was made of nothing of gypsies, were on their feet. And it wasn't like, oh, I'll be chic and stand up. I mean, it was like that. And when Larry Kurt did that, and I remember this so distinctly, was singing Somewhere, and at the very end, he hit that high note that was just piercing right there. My hair went like that. And I stood up on my feet. What hair?
You guys,
John used to have hair at one point.
and you're and remember when you first saw it, Harvey?
I was in New Girl in Town, and it was produced by Griffith and Prince, who wound up producing. And we were told we were not going to be taken out of that show to put into West Side Story, so do not audition. And I had a lot of featured stuff in that. It was Fosse, and that was the reigning king at that point until Jerry took over with West Side. But as soon as I saw it, I had the same thing. And I went to Hal Prince, who was very approachable at that point, and I said, whatever you do, please let me audition for this show. So when they had the first jet replacement, I auditioned and got it, and they took me out of New Girl in Town and put me into West Side.
And David, the impact it had on you?
Well, basically, Jerry, because I had worked for him in Peter Pan, he called my agent and said, is David available? I'm doing this show called West Side Story. And my agent, without asking anybody, said, David's graduating high school in Los Angeles. He's not going to be doing any shows until he finishes high school.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
And I didn't know about it.
Really?
And I came to New York, and my sister and I, she was just coming back from Europe, and we saw it. I was blown away. I was on the floor. And Jerry called when he was putting in 58, when he put together the London company. And he said, did you graduate? And I said, yes, with honors. He said, good, you're going to London.
Now, we got to wrap it up, guys. It's been great fun, but can I ask each of you, can you still do some of the dances of West Side Story? Can you still move?
Just in there.
Just in there, really?
No, I don't know. I think you probably do it, part of it full out, and then your body would say, don't do that again, I'm going to hurt you.
But you remember it?
Oh my gosh! No, you can't. Every step, every beat, every
Harvey?
Same thing. I can't remember the Scarlet Pimpernel. I shouldn't say that. I can't remember shows I did 3 years ago.
I can't remember some of those shows.
But I can remember all of West Side. Absolutely. And ironically, I did a little teaching thing last summer, and a friend of mine and myself we sort of marked cool until the knee slides and knee turns and all that. But it doesn't leave your body. That's
every ounce. We had a little reunion about a year ago, and we all went up to the east side of the playground. And we were recreating the whole steps. I remember